Oli, good morning. So now you've got your office at home, but you'll still be able to connect with the rest of the world. You can't have any excuses. You can't say you can't cross to us.
No, that's right. We have the technology these days to be able to do it, and I can perhaps zoom out in a second and show you the mess that is my home studio. Let me explain to you why we're in this situation. On Sunday, my eldest son started coughing, developed what you'd call a persistent new cough. Now, that was one of the symptoms that the NHS and the government guidance at the time was saying if anyone demonstrates that, they should go into isolation for 7 days. So as of Sunday, my son, 12 years old, he's fine, by the way, went into isolation. Then on Monday, the government advice changed, and it became that if anyone in your household was displaying any symptoms, the whole household had to go into isolation. So that was me, my wife, my two sons, and my dog Buster. Now, that has changed slightly since then as well. The added complication is that my wife is a nurse, so she has been described as a key worker under these circumstances. She's been told actually to keep going to work. She can be tested on the National Health Service, so that's one of the reasons that she can still do that, but we're very much isolating ourselves from her inside the house here. But if I stand up here, I can zoom out and show you a little bit of how this home studio setup works. As I say, it's a very messy situation that we're looking at now in my home studio here. This is also the room that doubles up as the place where the kids keep all of their rubbish. The added complication, of course, is that in a situation like this, there are other people in the house, so coming and going all of the time. I'm often having to, you know, make sure that children and dogs aren't in shot, that kind of thing. There's Buster, there's Arthur. Arthur's not displaying any symptoms, neither is Buster, neither am I. My other son is totally fine, so no need to worry about him. But what we're doing, you know, is following government advice. We're trying to be good citizens in this house, like many other people are, following instructions. And clearly, if anyone in the Barrett household does have COVID-19, if my eldest son is a carrier at this point, what you know, we're following government advice to do is try and make sure that he doesn't spread it any further. So we are not leaving the house other than to walk Buster, which is the latest government advice. We're allowed to do that as long as we stay away from other people. And I have to say, walking the dog at this time, when it's the only time you leave the house, is something that keeps you sane.
Does Mrs. Barrett get your groceries when she goes to work as a nurse, or do you have to go out and buy some food?
Well, you are advised, if you can, not to even go to the shops for essentials. Now, as I was saying, we have the advantage, I guess, in this house of my wife being able to bring us supplies. I'm sleeping in a different room from her at the moment. She's very happy about that, but she is able to do our shopping for us. But you know, people are advising you to get your friends or people you know to come and drop off supplies, leave it at the front door to stop you heading out to the shops where there are more people. Now, that's not possible for everyone, for some of the elderly, the vulnerable, people who don't have friends and family nearby. So all sorts of complications to British life at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, Buster looks like a very well-behaved Jack Russell to me. I mean, do you have to take him for walks a couple of times a day?
So we're walking him, once a day, a big, decent walk, half an hour or an hour or so. And on that walk, we're making sure that we don't go anywhere near any other people. And you're really seeing that in the park with people out walking their pets. They're really distancing themselves from each other, making sure they're at least a couple of metres away from any other people. At the same time, there have been people, particularly here in London, who are visibly not following advice, who are not distancing themselves, for example, from elderly or older people, which is certainly the advice. It was my mother's birthday yesterday. She'll allow me to say, in her 70s. My father is in his 90s. We weren't able to go and see them yesterday on my mother's birthday because they are being advised to keep themselves away from even family contact. So, you know, another small illustration of the way that life is becoming very different. And we are possibly over the next few days heading into an even tougher lockdown here in London, and that's partly because of some of those people who haven't been following the advice and who have still been congregating in places like bars and pubs.
Yeah, and schools, of course, are all closed. Your son, who was there a short while ago with Buster, how are they keeping their work busy? Very briefly, before we look at the bigger picture, at how the numbers are looking in the UK.
Well, you know, work is not as easy as it would normally be. I can broadcast live like this to you, so we can continue doing that. I'm not out news gathering. I'm not heading out to interview anyone or anything like that. So certainly work is restricted. I'm lucky enough to have this room that doubles, as I say, as the dump of kids' stuff where I can sit and keep reasonably quiet. But it's not easy keeping the children entertained all day. As schools shut down on Friday, we expect that we are going to be sent more material for homeschooling for children. That's the big update from the UK now, really, is that schools do shut on Friday. We are not being told when they will reopen. Part of the reason that this greater lockdown is coming is that we are now up to over 100 deaths from COVID-19, or people who had COVID-19 here in the UK, and the government feels that to flatten that curve in terms of the peak of the coronavirus outbreak in the UK, you have to get those stringent lockdown measures and the social distancing measures coming in at the right time. So, as I say, schools shut at the end of Friday. We don't know how long for, and it may even be that over the next few days in London that even tougher social distancing measures are imposed.
Oli Bharat, thank you very much for talking to us while you are in self-quarantine. That's our correspondent in London, Oli Bharat, giving us a sense of what it's like for him and his family to be under self-quarantine.